Birds may be the modern-day dinosaurs, but elephants are the modern-day elephants. Over the course of millions of years, lots of species of these gentle giants have walked the earth, but now we're down to 3. The most famous extinct elephant species is the woolly mammoth, known scientifically as Mammuthus primigenius. They lived from the late Pleistocene epoch into the Holocene. In English, that's roughly 2000 BC to around 250,000 years ago. Though they originated in northern Asia, they spread widely throughout Europe and crossed the Bering Land Bridge all the way to modern-day Alaska and Canada. In terms of their size, woolly mammoths were actually on par with today's African elephants, standing at around 11 feet and weighing about 6 tons. The furry beasts were well suited for living through the last ice age. Their double layer of fur could get as long as 20 inches, and their smaller ears ensured they lost less body heat than modern elephants. They also had a camel-like hump on their backs, which scientists believe stored an energy reserve of fat. Sadly, these features also prevented them from adapting to warmer climates when the last glacial period ended, which ultimately led to their extinction.
If your species will continue, clap your hand.
But humans also had a hand in their demise. Hunting mammoths for both food and clothing was common during the Ice Age. Woolly mammoths were mostly extinct by around 10,000 years ago, but small populations survived on Arctic islands for about 6,000 more. Mammut americanum is commonly called the American mastodon, a word derived from Greek meaning nipple tooth.
Come again?
Silly as it is, they received that name because they had bumpy molars that set them apart from other species like mammoths and modern elephants. This isn't surprising, as their last shared ancestor lived over 20 million years ago. Mastodons also lived well before mammoths, from about 4 million years ago to around 8500 BC. Mastodon fossils have been found throughout much of North America, all the way from Canada to Mexico. Their fossils have even been discovered 200 miles from the coast, which shows how much the sea level has risen since they walked the earth. Slightly smaller than mammoths, roughly the same size as today's Asian elephants, mastodons first dwelled in the forested regions in the south of the continent, but began migrating north when the glaciers shrunk. Unfortunately, doing this spread the population into smaller groups. Smaller populations led to inbreeding, which makes species less genetically diverse. As a result, it was harder for mastodons to adapt to shifting climates in northern areas. But just like with mammoths, being hunted by humans may have been the final force to push them into extinction. We just hope the same thing doesn't happen to the metal band. If you think today's elephants are giant, Palaeoloxodon namadicus would have your jaw on the floor. While there haven't been any complete fossils of this species discovered, the segments that have been found reveal an absolute behemoth of an animal. Many people believe it was the largest land mammal of all time, and scientists estimate that it likely stood somewhere between 15 and 17 feet tall. It's estimated to have weighed around 44,000 pounds, about 4 times an African elephant's weight. Nicknamed the Asian straight-tusked elephant, they mainly lived on the Indian subcontinent, but have been discovered in parts of Asia as well. They lived from the Middle Pleistocene epoch and went extinct somewhere between 50,000 and 25,000 years ago. The exact cause of their extinction is unknown, but they seem to have disappeared around the same time as many other large animals, probably because of extreme climate change that occurred as the Ice Age wound down. It is possible that Palaeoloxodon namadicus coexisted with humans for a period, but there's no evidence that man hunted them.
Can't say that I blame him.
Funny enough, the Palaeoloxodon genus also housed the smallest elephant species in history. Palaeoloxodon falconeri was a dwarf elephant that only grew to about 3 feet. To put that in perspective, their young were about the size of a common house cat. Despite their small size, they're believed to have had a similar life cycle to modern elephants, reaching maturity around 15 and potentially living into their 70s. Palaeoloxodon falconeri lived during the Pleistocene epoch on the islands of Sicily and Malta. Scientists believe that they evolved from larger elephants that migrated to the Mediterranean islands from mainland Europe on land bridges exposed during the Ice Age. When sea levels rose again, the elephants were trapped, so they evolved to have much smaller bodies in order to survive on fewer resources. And while that adaptation may have made food last longer, it might have been their downfall as well. Palaeoloxodon falconeri vanished around 200,000 years ago. At that time, a lot of tectonic activity happened around Sicily and Malta, which could have produced new land bridges that allowed larger predators like brown bears and cave lions to reach the islands and hunt them. Stegodon was a prehistoric genus related to mastodons, mammoths, and modern elephants, though their exact place on the family tree is unknown. There were a number of Stegodon species, but there are a few things that set Stegodon orientalis apart from the others. First off, it had the broadest range of any Stegodon species. It spread out across Asia during the Pliocene and Pleistocene epochs, and actually lived alongside modern-day Asian elephants for hundreds of thousands of years. And while researchers believe that humans may have interacted with them, there's no evidence that people hunted them. all this begs a question.
So,
How?
Well, scientists believe the reason elephants outlived them is their diet. While Asian elephants foraged for food in both woodland and savanna regions, Stegodon orientalis only ate from forests. This meant that they could not adapt to the dramatic climate change at the end of the Pleistocene, while Asian elephants were able to continue surviving on multiple food sources. The Platybelodon genus has bodies similar to modern elephants, but their faces looked borderline cartoonish by comparison. Instead of having a low-hanging trunk like most other elephant varieties, their trunks were part of their upper jaws. And if that doesn't sound weird enough, their lower jaws extended as far as their snouts and looked like shovels. They had 2 tusks on each jaw, and the lower ones were as long as 2 to 3 feet. So far, 5 species of Platybelodon have been identified. It's no surprise that Platybelodons look so odd, as they existed way before anyone else on this list. While mammoths, mastodons, and elephants all lived in the Pleistocene epoch, Platybelodons didn't even make it that far. Instead, they were spread across Africa, Eurasia, and North America from the mid-Miocene epoch to the early Pliocene, roughly 15 million to 4 million years ago. Scientists still aren't sure what the shovel jaws were for, but popular theories state they either used their jaws to scoop plants out of marshlands or cut up vegetation and strip tree bark. Either way, those are some pretty specific skills, which would have made it very hard to adapt to change. When the globe started cooling into the last ice age, the land dried out and Platybelodons lost their food sources, ultimately going extinct. The Columbian mammoth has been overshadowed in pop culture by the woolly mammoth, but it was equally remarkable. Standing around 13 feet and weighing about 22,000 pounds, they're believed to have been the largest species of mammoth. If that's not intimidating enough, their tusks could grow to be 16 feet long, some of the longest tusks of any elephant species ever. As their name suggests, Columbian mammoths lived further south than woolly mammoths, ranging from the present-day United States to Costa Rica. These warmer areas meant that Columbian mammoths had hardly any hair, much like the elephants we throw peanuts at today. Despite their differences, DNA analysis suggests that Columbian mammoths actually descended from woolly mammoths that interbred with another mammoth species. Columbian mammoths vanished around the same time as woolly mammoths, and it looks like climate change was once again the cause. Being so large, Columbian mammoths spent up to 18 hours eating every day. They required around 150,000 calories, so any disruption to their food supply would have been disastrous.